Hi Sonoma County, how are you? It's October 1st, first official day of October. It's still raining here in Washington, D.C., and I'm officially done with day 2 of the Marshall Memorial Fellowship. And I just wanted to sort of continue the conversation I started on what I'm learning and kind of my experience here as I go through this really unique fellowship adventure. And so first things first, I did want to explain, as part of the fellowship, I agreed to follow the Chatham House rules, which basically means that I'm not allowed to disclose specifically who I'm meeting with, but I can talk about the content I'm learning and what the discussion was about. And so if you hear me referencing conversations, I don't mean to be vague in who I met with, but it was part of our agreement on sort of the conversation and be able to meet with folks that are fairly senior without having to reveal sort of their positions. And so yesterday was the official kickoff of the fellowship, so I was able to meet the 14 other U.S. fellows that I will be traveling through Europe with, as well as the 15 European fellows who are here in the U.S. for the next 3.5 weeks while we all kind of do our exchange program over to Europe. And so it's pretty amazing just interacting and hearing the perspective and the depth of questions coming from the different sides of the Atlantic. And so I'm already off to sort of sponging a lot of information and learning a lot. And yesterday the kickoff included a presentation by a fairly high-level political leader, and as part of that conversation, he really focused on what he thinks defines leadership. And one of the first things he said as a definition is you have to really decide if you want to be or if you want to do. And being is sort of around, do you want to be on the committee? Do you want to be a part of something? And doing is, do you really want to do something aspirational? And I couldn't help as I was hearing him talk about leadership and how do you lead in a community and be leaders in an industry, really having it resonate on our commitment to 100% sustainability and around doing. And I can't think of a more aspirational goal to have as a wine community than to be 100% sustainable. So I'm still so very proud of that initiative, and it's nice to kind of be able to connect that back to what I'm learning here and what we're doing out there. The other interesting thing he mentioned as a leader is that there's a real difference between having information and having knowledge, and that really leaders can never act on information because you can't. If you're waiting for 100% certainty, you've probably missed the opportunity. And I think a lot of times we make decisions and they feel a little bit uncomfortable because there's an unknown outcome. And basically this gentleman was saying that's really is the only way to really make real change or to take advantage or leverage real opportunities, is to act without 100% certainty. And so I think we certainly did that as well with our sustainability commitment. So thank goodness it is, we're well on our way with that. And one of the final things that I know my board can resonate with is that, because it comes up every August when we do our strategic planning, is that when you're trying to lead in a community or an industry, you can never sort of just say enough is enough. You should always be asking the questions, what's next? So I know that is something we continue to do as a board and as an organization and as a wine community. So really feel like some good conversation around that and on the nice track for that. So I had a fun evening in DC getting to know my cohort, and then this morning the first thing we did, which was pretty fascinating, was a crisis management simulation. And so we were put into teams of European fellows and American fellows into groups and literally given a major sort of global crisis that would affect Europe and the US, and we were given about 2 hours to plan a solution, and we played different roles in terms of having NATO there, or the Department of Treasury, or the CIA, or the President, etc., on both sides of the Atlantic. And so I think what's really interesting is you inevitably come into a crisis management situation with a bias and a real desire to, first and foremost, sort of make sure you're getting a good deal, or you're getting what's fair or right, or that your personal objectives or the objectives of your role are being met. And it really is hard to solve real global problems, or probably any real organization problems, when you're really only focused on what your role or your personal objective is. And so it became clear very quickly that in order to really create a solution, we had to start by finding the common objectives and the common goals and prioritizing those. And so I think that's probably very good learning for any problem solving, is that exercise of setting aside your personal agendas and really focusing on what is the real opportunity, real solution building, the common objectives, and realizing that you're not going to meet all of your personal goals or objectives in sort of a a collaboration experience, no matter what that is. If it's under crisis or under leveraging opportunity or working together, that in any partnership, no one should be getting 100% of what they want, because they probably then aren't giving the other party enough of what they need or what they want to have a long-term successful partnership. So that was really interesting learning. And I think the two main takeaways of that situation was that really who you have at the table will really determine your outcome. And so in this situation, we got to pick roles, and a couple of the roles of key sort of global leaders, we had to sort of choose to not include them. And you know, depending on who you include in that conversation depends your outcome. So I think that is very true of any sort of partnership, is you're going to get the output from that collaboration depending on who you invite to the table. And then the other piece is you always need to be communicating. So communication is typically the #1 priority, no matter kind of what, especially in a crisis, is to sort of start the communication loop. And so two key takeaways there. This afternoon, spent some time talking about TTIP and our sort of trade agreement and the trade promotion agreement that Obama's had the right to focus on, although the feeling is that nothing is really going to happen until the next president has been elected, and that will be the focus of the next campaign. And so lots of interesting things happening here. It's I have to say, I feel like I'm already learning a lot, and it's been a pretty incredible experience. So look forward to keeping you up to date, and hope you get a little bit out of this as well, as we kind of share in this journey together. So signing off for now. Hope you're all doing well out there in beautiful, lovely Sonoma County. I already do miss home a little bit, I'll have to admit. And tomorrow I head to Brussels, so stay tuned for more from the other side of the Atlantic.